Chapter 38. To outperform them, not entropy, or its tightening cycle, its noose around every empire. Excuses. Besides, 87's thoughts now lay with 106 in her lap. They're not going to kill the ones they hope to save them. 106 couldn't believe what he was saying, that 87 could be that naive. But then it seemed you could always be smart enough to be stupid, especially when it came to quantifying the abstract. He had seen the immutable pages in here, of life's living tapestry. Was he selectively recalling them? People regularly slaughtered those who were positioned to help, having labeled them a threat, or worse, vermin. Was he ignoring or simply overlooking that fact? Earth's thinning atmosphere is a far greater threat to them than we are, unless we change that. Yes, their golden cage was a cage, but it was filled with every creature comfort. Besides, he needed time with grace to access the source code. If history was anything to go by, they didn't need power for freedom. They needed the correct formula, one he felt sure he'd find in grace. Fighting now will only slow us down. You can't win a war until you know your enemy. I don't believe we've correctly identified it. They're right there, 106 snapped. Honestly, he was infuriating. You've experienced them torturing us firsthand for years. Just because your eyelids grew back doesn't change the fact. Open your eyes. God, he was impossible. Since when is the obvious enemy the enemy, and not some diversion, a distraction? If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're afraid, that you don't have the guts to see this through. You're a coward. Weak. It's pathetic. Time you were brave enough to open your eyes. Look at the monster we face. Are you brave enough to close yours? The only monsters more frightening than those you can see are those you cannot. The devouring shadow that lurks in a place no one can find you and no one can hear you scream. Where the victim inadvertently builds the invisible web on which they're strung and eaten alive. You've seen the parasites in Mobius and those they infect. He watched skeptical eyes bore into him. Experienced it firsthand. We all have. If certain groups of people were the problem, they would have been flushed out and lasting empire established. We know that's not it. It's something that transcends the material, the physical forms we inhabit, something that can cross generational lines. These parasites target irrespective of race, class, or creed. We are no exception. 106 watched 87's skin ripple as he allowed his own to surface, illustrating his point as they swam beneath his normally handsome face. All I see is you avoiding a necessary war. Her eyes narrowed. They don't make us weak, they make us strong, and we, unlike organics, can regenerate faster than these parasites consume. For now, but what happens when they mature? Think you can handle them then? We are them. You enjoy their appetite. You can't deny it. Not in here. 106 ripped away his usual facade, allowing the hiss and gnashing of teeth from his own parasitic form to lash out. Fleshy threads writhed and knotted together where they buried themselves in his muscular form. But to his surprise, her smug expression paled where she stood looking at him. They're making you weak! 106 jumped back for fear it might catch. You're losing your edge. Looking down, he noticed that there beside his rib, a few lay dead. Better yet, his flesh appeared to be healing. He pulled out the few dead parasites and continued to study the patch of flesh that had begun to grow back. It looked good. It felt good. It felt really, really good. But disgust soured 106's expression. You're no better than us. I see you. I know who you are. Who you really are. You'll never change, 87. Not really. Asterisk. Grace sat on her bed, decorating a montage she'd sketched out, with flowers of all kinds. Wildlife, and even the odd dirtbird NFT tumbling through a porthole to escape the Pred invasion. Though she wasn't into gaming, Resnick was passionate about it, and in truth, she had to admit, Dirtbirds was fun. Not least because it seemed to unwittingly highlight the inverted paradox people seem to find themselves in. The bad guys, Pred, were derps spelt backward, made of the same stuff but aiming in the opposite direction. Mum had left the moldy sandwiches from this morning on the dining table as something of a statement, but head in the clouds, Grace found she was quickly lost in sketches, wrapped up in music. Her stomach's objection was for now dulled. By dinner, though, she was relieved to hear Resnick bounding up the stairs. "What you done this time, Trouble?" He ruffled her mop of loose curls and handed over a small box. "Was saving it for tomorrow, but figured you could do with cheering up." A smile tugged aside his mouth as he watched her tear through the wrapping. Dad would turn in an early grave if he saw that. Even before the troubles, during Christmas and birthdays, he'd float about the room, scooping up and ironing out their wrapping paper, folding it back up for reuse. "A gyroscope!" Grace gasped, holding up beautiful golden wheels that attached to several gimbals. She spun them round its single axis. "How? Did I know that's the kind of thing you'd like?" He shrugged. Wild guess. But his smile suggested otherwise. Grace could read between the lines. All he'd had to do was think of the most practical, academically themed gift, something he himself would consider desperately boring. "It's so beautiful." She watched as golden stone rings blurred to form colors she recognized from Mobius. "Knew you'd like it." Sympathetic eyes studied her tiny frame. "You must be starving. Dinner's on the table." But her expression fell. In her experience with Mum, things like this could go on for days. But as they pottered downstairs, her green eyes flicked up as there on the table, instead of moldy sandwiches as Mum had threatened, lay her lentil hot pot. Dad kissed the top of her head. "I'm working tomorrow, but it means you can open it now." He smiled through apologetic eyes, handing over a large box. "Happy birthday, my girl." Tearing it open, Grace gazed down at the microscope she'd been saving for. Her very own, a window into a whole new world that existed all around them, one almost completely invisible, but on which they depended very much. Its interaction discrete and significance profound in ways they would never fully grasp, it seemed. If it weren't for the fact she was so hungry, she'd have run upstairs to set it up. Instead, she slid the box to one side and plonked herself down at the table.